My name is Noah, and this is the kind of love story that arrives late, spills coffee on your shirt, and still stays. I fell for my bad friend, the charming mess, the storm, and the shelter. If your heart has ever misbehaved, you'll understand. Sit with me. Breathe, listen, gently. If this resonates, please subscribe, share, and comment kindly. Your voice helps gentle stories find hearts that need them today. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, where the mountains hold the light in a way that feels like a blessing. In the early mornings, when the clouds still cling to the Blue Ridge and most of the city is dreaming, I drive past the French Broad River to the community clinic. And I count the parking spaces like a ritual. 1, 2, 3, and I take a slow breath. I am a family physician. People tell me their fears in rooms the size of closets. I hold more hands than I can count, and I say phrases like, "You're safe here," and "We can figure this out together," even when the world is noisy with alarms and the walls are thin and time is thinner. Maybe that's why I am telling you this, in a voice made soft for the evening, a little like the way we whisper in waiting rooms, a little like prayer. I am in love with my bad friend, and this is how it happened. We met properly as adults during hurricane leftovers, when the rain was loud, but the city did not close because the city never really does. The kind of storm that lifts umbrellas from hands and gives you a sideways shower if you stand at the wrong corner. I remember this because I still have the jacket from that day, stained at the wrist from coffee and a bit of motor oil I picked up helping a stranger jump a car. You hold on to a physical thing when your heart starts to remember something it didn't admit before. Maybe I was collecting evidence even then. His name is Jesse. If you've lived in the South long enough, you already know 10 men named Jesse, and 7 of them can fix anything with a wrench and a grin. My Jesse is 38, 2 years older than me. He used to play guitar in bars that serve microwaved pizza at midnight. He has an old pickup that should not run, and a leather jacket that has seen more late nights than a resident on call. When we met, he had just enough stubble to look purposeful, and just enough trouble in his eyes to make me feel both protective and annoyed. He was standing at High Five Coffee, shaking rain out of his hair, and bumping shoulders, on purpose, with the line behind him because Jesse has always looked for a fight, the way some people look for 4-leaf clovers. Convinced the next step will be the one. "Noah,
Is that you?
he said, like we were in a small-town movie. It wasn't actually a question. He said my name the way you say the name of a street from your childhood, with a precise brightness that makes you half smile even if you do not want to. I blinked, and my memory unrolled like it was on a projector. We had known each other a long time ago, in that wide, loose way people do when you are both younger and standing in the shadow of something big. His sister, Addison, had dated my friend Tyler back when I was spending summers in Chapel Hill, pretending I was not terrified of everything. I'd seen Jesse at cookouts, at late-night Waffle House breakfasts, at the kind of parties where somebody plays a song on a porch and calls it communion. He always arrived late and left early because he liked making people turn their heads. At a 4th of July party 15 years earlier, he jumped from a dock into a lake with all his clothes on and shouted something that was either a lyric or a dare. I remember laughing, then slipping away inside and washing dishes because it made sense to hold something and make it clean. Back in the coffee shop, we stared at each other a beat too long for strangers. He did the thing I remembered, the lean forward, the gentle squint, like he's trying to pull your story closer. Then he was talking with his hands and telling me he was working nights. Sometimes at a garage, sometimes at the bar off Haywood, and sometimes doing odd jobs which could mean anything from building a fence to carrying a baby, grand up 3 flights of stairs for a woman who wanted, to hear what piano sounded like in the sky. I am telling you this slowly because it's how I tell people difficult things. It gives you time to breathe. It gives me time to remember. He asked what I was doing. I said, "Still a doctor?" He laughed and said, "Of course. You always seemed like somebody who liked to fix what hurt." He said it without mocking me, which felt like a miracle. He offered to buy my coffee, and I said okay, and he told the barista to add a blueberry muffin as if he was doing us both a favor. He always assumes people want sweetness. Sometimes he is right. We took our cups to a corner, and I watched the rain behind him like it was a movie that knew the exact moment to tilt and the exact moment to soften. He asked about my mother, who still lives in Greensboro. And I said she was well, still teaching second grade, still making Sunday dinners like it was a sport. I asked about his mother, and he tucked his lip into his teeth the way he does when a fact tries to hurt him. Aches, he said. You know, the usual kind. Back in heart and whatever memories store in the bones. Does she have a doctor she trusts? I asked out of habit. He smiled. You, he said, then added, if you'll let us. This is how it starts. This is how it always starts, with a small ask, with a memory sliding in, with rain and coffee and your name said out loud by someone who has the map of your old life, even if it's folded and frayed at the edges. I told him to bring her by the clinic, and he did. 2 days later, I met his mother, who sat in my exam room in a sweater with pearl buttons and talked about her plants like they were children. She let me listen to her heart, small and steady and honest. She said, Noah, I remember when you were the boy who cleared the table and shooshed everyone so we could hear the fireworks. And I felt 13 again, and 36 at the same time. I did my job. I did not become her son's story. That is what I told myself. Jessie waited in the car and texted me photos of her garden while she talked. He is always generous to the people he loves and sometimes to the rest of us too. When I walked her out, he leaned on the hood of his truck as if he had invented the shape of it. He said, Doc, like half a joke and half respect, and I felt that unfurl inside me like a page turning over by wind alone. I started seeing more of him, not by plan, by the way lives bend. He would text at odd hours asking things like, do you know a good mechanic who doesn't judge? Or, is it normal to feel tired after being awake for 36 hours? Which, for the record, is not a question that needs a medical degree. He would drop by the clinic to bring his mother paperwork and wait for her in the parking lot. I would walk out and find him sitting on the tailgate drinking a soda, and he would hand me one without asking if I wanted it. He acts like everyone is hungry until proven otherwise. There is a particular ache when you find yourself becoming important to someone who has trouble with the idea of important. He was generous with jokes, late with apologies, good at building shelves, bad at keeping promises. He was the friend who'd help you move a couch in a downpour, then forget to show up the next day when you needed a ride to the airport. He'd stand between you and a punch if a stranger got loud, but he'd make it to the same bar 3 nights in a row when he was trying to make a point to himself that he could still be a teenager. Bad is not a whole person. Bad is the way we describe behavior that harms the person doing it or the people nearby. I knew that clinically. I knew that, personally. We became a pattern. A text, a coffee. A ride in his truck with the windows cracked and the radio quietly playing the same Tom Petty song because the station in Asheville does not believe in updating a good thing. A Saturday afternoon when I ran into him in the River Arts District because I was buying a color-splashed mug and he was helping an artist fix a door. He walked me to my car and drew a little house with his finger in the fog on my window, then smiled like he'd found magic. One night, he showed up at my apartment building after midnight, knocking gently, then harder, then calling through the door, "It's me. It's okay. I'm okay. I just need—" He trailed off. I opened the door. He stood there with a cut across his knuckles and the kind of small wildness in his eyes that comes when someone has just barely avoided an accident. He held up his hands like he was surrendering. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't have come. But you know about bandages." And other things. I let him in. The hallway smelled like laundry and lemon. He toed off his boots, as if he'd been here 100 times, which he had not. I took him to the kitchen because kitchens are honest. He sat at my small table while I washed my hands. I glanced at the clock and thought about the clinic's morning schedule and the forms I still had to sign, and none of it mattered because there is a human in front of you who trusts you, and that wins. Always. "Tell me what happened," I said, in that voice I use with frightened people. He softened. He told me he had thrown himself between 2 guys at the bar who were shouting, and one of them swung and caught his hand on a glass. He said it like it was both normal and heroic. He clutched the dish towel I gave him like a lifeline. I cleaned the cut. I worked slowly. He watched my hands the way I watch thunderstorms, respectful, a little afraid, fascinated. When I finished, he exhaled and smiled with a corner of his mouth only. "You've got surgeon hands," he said, "but softer." "Family medicine is a lot of this," I said. "Sitting with pain until it tells the truth." He looked at me then, directly. He said very carefully, "Noah, do you ever just wish someone would sit with you and not ask you to explain why you feel like you might explode?" His voice had gravel in it. It was also gentle. "You can be both." "I do," I said, "because I do. I do often." I motioned toward the living room. We sat on the floor with our backs against the couch, because sometimes you need to be held up by something you can kick. The rain gave up on performance and settled into a whisper against the glass. "I am not good for people," he said. "I was not good for my last 3. I don't know what to call them. People who ask me to show up. I am a sporadic comet. I want to be the kind of man who keeps promises, and I am very good at wanting things. I could have said many things. Advice, as if that would fix it. Diagnosis, which would have made it neat, but not better. I said, 'You're here now.' That counts." It was true. Often it is the truest thing I know. I'm going to tell you something that might sound like a confession spoken in a whisper under a blanket. I knew I loved him before I admitted it to myself. It was not a single moment. It was collecting small moments like pebbles. It was the way his voice softened when he spoke to his mother. It was the way he tipped his head to the side when he listened to a child tell him a dream about a monster that lived in the washing machine. It was the afternoons he spent patching a porch for the widow down the hall from me, and he refused to take money. And then he took the pound cake she offered like it was a medal and said, "Ma'am, this is the best paycheck I have ever received." It was the way he took the blame too quickly and the way he avoided it when the blame actually belonged to him. It was messy. It was 1,000 tiny lights in a field at dusk that made my chest ache because I could not catch them all. I did not want to love him. I am not proud of that sentence, but it is honest. I did not want to love someone who had earned the adjective bad. I wanted somebody who could put dinner into a calendar and show up at the exact minute the calendar said, someone whose chaos was mostly about where we left the remote. I wanted a man who did not call at 2 in the morning. I wanted to want that, but what I wanted was a man who looked at me like he was remembering a kind of safety, like he had finally put down a backpack he'd been carrying since childhood, full of rocks and broken pencils and old report cards. I wanted him. I wanted to stand next to him while he learned to want better. We started walking together in the mornings before I went to the clinic. He would show up 5 minutes late, but with coffee, which is a kind of apology. We would circle the neighborhood while the sun got to know the day. He would talk, then fall silent, then talk again. I became the riverbank and he became the water, moving fast and then smooth, telling stories about his father, who left when he was 14 and returned when he needed money. About the first time he realized he was in love with a man and how he drank to make the room stop looking at him. About the time a stranger gave him a ride when his truck broke down in Tennessee, and how he has been repaying that kindness to every stranded person he meets ever since. He is a ledger of hurts and grace. It is difficult to love a ledger. It is also the only way. On our best days, we laughed. He'd point at a blue heron standing in the water like a mood and say, "That's me on a Monday." He'd make me practice whistling with 2 fingers, though all it did was make me spit and pray I wasn't alarming any cat nearby. We'd stop for biscuits at a place that puts butter in the air like it's a season. He'd call me Doc, and I'd roll my eyes, and then he'd call me Noah, soft, and I'd feel my bones remember something invisible. On our worst days, he disappeared. No text, no answer. Nothing but a silence that felt like a prank the universe played to see if I would call it love. Those days, I would go to work and listen to my patients carefully, because focusing on someone else's pain lets you take a breath inside your own. I would come home and make a simple dinner, stand over the sink, and eat it like I was a teenager again. I would check my phone, and I would set it down, and I would check it again. I would sleep like a man under a thin blanket in a cold room. If you have ever loved someone who makes their own storms, you know this part. You know how it feels both noble and foolish, like you are the lighthouse and also the banged-up boat. People ask me why I put up with it. I did not have a neat answer. I had feelings. I had history. I had a man on my couch with his hands open and his quitting time unpredictable. The night everything changed, he arrived at my door in the best shirt he owns, which is not a high bar, and a sprig of rosemary in his hand because he said it smelled like remembrance, and he did not have money for flowers. He was stone-cold sober. He said he wanted to help me at the health fair I was organizing for the neighborhood that Saturday, the one at the church that has a red door and a kitchen where the casseroles never stop. He said he wanted to set up tables and carry boxes. He wanted to do the heavy lifting. "Let me be useful," he said like a prayer. I believed him. I wanted to believe him so much that the wanting turned into a wait. I gave him the time and the address. I said, "Be there at 8. He said, "I will be." He said it like a vow. We stood in the doorway, almost touching, and we did not kiss, and that felt like a kind of respect we had built without noticing. Saturday morning arrived. I put on a blue shirt and a name tag and my face that says everything will be okay. I checked my phone. 7:30, 7:45, 8, 8:15. It is hard to describe the patience required to hold hope and protect your own heart at the same time. It feels like carrying an egg uphill in a spoon with people watching. At 8:40, he texted, "Car trouble. I'm coming. Don't give up on me." At 10:15, he sent a picture of a tire. At 11:30, a picture of him in a friend's car, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. At 12:10, nothing. At 1:00, the fair began to wrap up, and the last blood pressure cuff was boxed, and the last child got a balloon that looked like a dinosaur with a cold. I stood in the parking lot and told myself I was fine and that this was not about me. It is not about me. It is never about you, even when it is. At 3:00, I found him leaning against a lamppost across the street, watching me load the last fold-out table. He was drunk. Not the sloppy collapse kind of drunk. The bright-eyed, too loud, joking around the pain drunk that fools strangers but not people who know you. He waved with both hands like a flag. "I made it," he said, swaying a little, like he was standing on a boat. "You did not," I said. My voice surprised me. It was flat. There was no place to land. He came closer, smiling. "I'm here now," he said, as if that was dinner to a hungry person. As if it was enough. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is not. People were watching. The pastor with the kind eyes was watching. A few of my patients were watching. More importantly, my own self was watching. The part of me that had been waiting for this moment. The part that wanted to make a rule that would keep me from bleeding out slowly every other Saturday for the rest of my life. "Jesse," I said, "I need you to go." He looked like I had slapped him, and maybe I did in a different way. "Noah," he said, and his voice was both small and sharp. "This is a boundary," I said. "This is me protecting the people here and also me." I tried to say it gently. I tried to speak to the nervous system. "I care about you. I cannot do this. I cannot bring you into spaces where I promise safety and then have to apologize for you." He nodded like he was drowning. He put his hands in his pockets because he always forgets what to do with them. He said, "Okay," in the quietest voice I've ever heard from him. He turned and walked away without looking back, which is the bravest thing I have ever watched him do. I went home after we returned the tables and wiped down counters and threw away wrappers. I sat on my floor and stared at the coffee table like it owed me an explanation. I wanted to call him. I wanted to run after him and tell him that I did not mean it, even though I did. I poured a glass of water and drank it like it was a test. I slept badly. He did not call me the next day, or the next. A week went by, and I felt like an apartment with the lights off but all the appliances humming. I worked, I ate, I walked. I took care of the dog down the hall when my neighbor sprained her ankle. I did not call him. I wrote his name down on a piece of paper and folded the paper and put it on my bookshelf because I needed to put it somewhere. People's names are heavy. Sometimes you need the shelf. After 2 weeks, a letter arrived. A real letter, with a stamp and a careful return address written in a hand that looked like it wanted to be neat. I opened it at the kitchen counter with a butter knife because that felt ceremonial. The paper smelled faintly like the universe after rain, or maybe I only imagined that. He wrote, "I am sorry." There were more words, many more. He said he had been sober for 5 days. He said he had found a meeting where nobody looked at him like the ocean was too big. He said he did not want me to fix him. Then he crossed that out and wrote, "I am afraid I do want that, and I know it would be bad for me." He said he had wanted to be the man carrying tables for me, and instead he became the man I had to ask to leave. He wrote, "You deserve a life where the doorbell is not a guess." He wrote, I want to be the man who knocks at normal hours. I want to be the man who calls before he shows up. I want to be the one you can send to the store for milk and know I will return with milk. I cried. I am not ashamed of that. It felt like something old inside me was letting go of a railing. I called him. The phone rang once, twice. He picked up on the third ring like a gentleman in an old movie. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I said. "I'm sorry," he said again. "Thank you for telling me to go. I mean it. I don't think I would have heard myself otherwise." "Are you okay?" I asked, because habit is a kind of love too. "I am going to be," he said. "I am trying." He took a breath. I could hear it. "I know I've been your bad friend. I want to be your good one. And I am not asking for us to be anything else until I am kinder to myself." He paused. "But I am in love with you." I should probably not say that, but it is the truest thing I have. The room got still in that way it does when your heartbeat becomes the only metronome that matters. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes. "I'm in love with you too," I said, because it was time to take that word off the shelf and hold it. We did not run into each other's arms. We did not install ourselves into each other's lives like easy furniture. We decided to walk, slowly. I met him for coffee at 9 in the morning, not 9 at night. We sat on the brick wall outside the bakery on Merriman Avenue and talked about nothing important until it became the most important thing we could have done. He showed me the chips he kept in his pocket, the little tokens from meetings that said, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. I did not cheer out loud, but I built a quiet celebration inside my ribs. He came over for dinner on a Tuesday at 6, and I made chicken and green beans and mashed potatoes, and he did the dishes and sang off-key to the radio, and we did not kiss. It is one of my favorite nights of my life. He asked me to go to a meeting with him. I went. I sat in the back and listened to people talk about the ways they had tried to make the world stop spinning by making it spin faster. I was not there as a doctor. I was not there to give advice. I was a man who loved a man, and my job was to let my presence be a seat for him to rest on. After, in the parking lot, he leaned his forehead against mine and whispered, "Thank you," like a man kneeling. I felt holy. We kissed then, just once. The kind of kiss that feels like a promise you make to yourself to be gentle. Time is patient when you are patient with it. He found work with a contractor who did not ask too many questions, just wanted someone who could carry wood and show up on time. The first week he was late twice, the second week once, the third week not at all. He celebrated by buying me a crafted pen at the art market, the kind that is made of cherry wood and clicks with the sound of small satisfaction. "For your notes," he said. I used it to write down the names of patients who needed me to remember them extra. He took me to the river late one Sunday afternoon when the light was gold and lazy. We stood on the bank and watched a kid throw a stick for a dog that did not understand physics, but did understand joy. He put his arm around my waist in a way that said, "I trust myself not to hurt this." I leaned into him in a way that said, "I see you trying, and I adore you." A couple walked by and smiled. 2 men holding on to something harmless. It felt like the world nodded, his father called. He had called before. This time he wanted money. He was in town. He wanted to see Jesse. I watched all the hard work we had done gather itself like a small fort that would not stand against a cannon. Jesse paced my living room and rubbed his hands together like he was trying to start a fire with his own skin. "I don't want to see him," he said. "I want to see him. I hate him. I miss him. I don't know how to be a person when he is a person in the room." It is here, my friends, that all my training and all my love learned to meet. I did not solve him. I did not fix his father. I put my hand on his back and felt the muscles jump. I said, "You are allowed to decide. If you want me to come with you, I will. If you want me to say no for you, I can. If you want to practice the conversation out loud, we can do that." Sometimes the body needs choices to unclench. He chose to meet his father in daylight at a diner that smells like pancakes no matter what time it is. He asked me to come, and then he asked me to sit at another booth nearby, so he could feel safe and also feel like a man who could do things himself. We did that. He walked in with his shoulders squared. His father looked older and smaller than Jesse remembered. They spoke. It was not cinematic. There were no big lines. There were simple sentences. I cannot give you money. I hope you are okay. I am working on it. Me too. The waitress, who wore her hair in a pen, refilled coffee, and kept them human by asking early and often if they wanted more water. When it was over, Jesse slid into my booth and exhaled deeply, then laughed a little like a man who had just done something both ordinary and miraculous. We split a piece of pie and he fed me a bite with his fork. Like we were in an old movie about people who grow up. If you are still with me, if you are sipping your tea or finishing the walk, you started when you pressed play on my voice. Know this. Love is made of errands, of small decisions, of walking someone to a door and waiting while they find their keys. Love is also made of sitting with your hand on someone's knee while they breathe through a memory and name the fear out loud so it cannot hide under the bed anymore. We had our setbacks. He stayed out late one Friday night because a guy from the crew had a birthday, and the whole job site turned into a party. He did not drink, but he forgot to tell me he would be gone so long. He turned off his phone because he wanted one less voice to make him feel guilty. I woke up at 3 and watched the ceiling and made up 37 stories about where he was and why he had not texted. He knew it when he came in around dawn, quiet, careful. He slid into bed and put his head on my chest, and my hand found his hair like it had been waiting there all night. I'm sorry, he said. I am learning to tell you where I am. I want to be better at that. He paused. I am not used to anyone needing to know. I am not used to needing to know, I said softly because that is also true. We looked at each other in the morning half-light like two men who had discovered a country together and were reading the map for the first time. We built routines. Routine is a language the body learns to trust. We made Sunday pancakes and Thursday spaghetti and a weekday walk between our mornings and the world. We adopted a dog, a quiet hound from the shelter with eyes that looked as if he had died and returned and was not quite convinced this was a better plan. We named him Roscoe because it fit his ears. He became our responsibility and our patient and our teacher. He taught us that a small creature watching the door for you turns the key from a habit into a homecoming. Late one summer afternoon, when the air had that heaviness that makes tomatoes sweet and temper short, we drove to the Blue Ridge Parkway and walked at Craggy Gardens, where the rhododendrons make the world look like it discovered color new. He took my hand openly. An older couple walked by and nodded. The man wore a Carolina hat, and the woman wore the kind of smile that says she has seen a lot and still chooses kindness. Y'all look happy, she said. We did. We were tired and we were in love, and those are similar sometimes. As autumn arrived like a quilt, we talked about making our lives easier to share. He had never had a place where the lease had both names on it. We were cautious. We knew what happened when we tried to move too fast. We decided to keep our apartments and spend 4 nights a week at mine, 3 at his until after the holidays. It sounds simple. It felt like learning to dance at a party where you love the song and you love your partner and you're a little worried about your feet. He brought over a box of things, a sweatshirt with a hole in the elbow, a stack of vinyl records, a photograph of him at age 8 with a fishing pole, and a grin like the day couldn't believe its luck. I cleared a drawer for him, then another. He set a mug next to my favorite mug and said, "Let's be mismatched in a pretty way." We were. One evening, he found a picture in my drawer. Me, at 20, standing next to a man named Ben, who once thought he might love me and then did not. Jesse ran his thumb lightly over the edge of the photo. "You were a baby," he said, teasing. His eyes were gentle. "Did you love him?" "I think I loved who I thought I might be with him," I said. He was safe. He was something I could write on a calendar. "And me?" he asked. Quiet, almost a joke, almost not. "You are the man who taught me patience," I said. "You are the man who taught me not to confuse drama with love. You make everything brighter. You make some things harder. You make most things truer." He bit his lip and his eyes filled, and he kissed me like a careful man who has been entrusted with something and intends to return it better than he found it. The winter came with its early darkness and its apples and its scarves. We made soup. We invited my mother to visit for a weekend. She brought a suitcase full of books for the kids in the clinic's lobby and a bag of pecans from a neighbor's tree. She shook Jesse's hand and then hugged him because she could not help it. He carried her suitcase up the stairs and brought in her cooler from the car and set it on the counter like an offering. She watched him, and she watched me, and she made me help her set the table, and she sang a little while she stirred the pot. That night, after she went to bed, she texted me from the next room. "He looks at you like a porch light." I put my phone down and cried again because some sentences are so true they knock inside your chest and ask to be let in. We had Christmas at my place. A small tree in the corner and a string of lights across the window. Jesse built a wooden frame around our mirror because he said it deserved a better border, and I watched him measure and sand and stain, so careful. He looked up at me as if he were building a boat. "Everything we are making," he said, and didn't finish because he didn't have to. On New Year's Eve, we stayed home. We made a charcuterie plate that was really just cheese and crackers with fancy confidence. At midnight, we stood on the balcony and listened to the neighborhood cheer. We kissed. He whispered in my ear, "Thank you for every time you didn't give up." I whispered back, "Thank you for every time you came back." Some stories end here, with the soft focus and the promise that everything will be a line that moves up for the rest of time. Our story did not do that because no story does. There were still days when he wanted the loudness of the world to drown out his careful quiet. There were days when I fell into old patterns and tried to fix what wasn't mine to fix. We learned to say, "I want to help, but I need to be asked." We learned to say, "I feel scared, not angry," and it changed everything. We went to a couples counselor twice when we found ourselves arguing about the dishes when we were actually worried about his father. The counselor, an older woman named Rita with calm eyes and a room full of plants, gave us a small bell and told us to ring it if we needed a pause. We laughed at first, then we used it. It is a beautiful sound to hear your own patients returning. In the spring, the clinic got busier. A flu surge, then the kind of allergies that make the whole town carry tissues like fashion. I worked longer hours. I got tired. We forgot we were people meeting each other at night and not just bodies collapsing into beds. He noticed. He told me he wanted to make dinner twice a week so that I would come home to a kitchen that smelled like a story. He learned to cook from YouTube videos and phone calls to his mother, who told him to trust the butter and taste as you go. He made a roast one night that tasted like everything good about Sunday afternoons. I kissed his forehead and said, "Marry me," as a joke, and he laughed nervously because jokes like that are true even when we pretend they aren't. I don't know if marriage is our shape. I know our days fit together with more ease than they do not. I know we play Scrabble on the floor and he tries to make words like y'all, and I say it's not legal, and he tells me it should be, and he winks. I know on the day he got his 2-year chip, we drove to a field behind the library and laid on a blanket and watched the clouds and named them like they were old neighbors. "That one looks like my first apartment couch," he said. "That one looks like your face when you try to eat a hot pepper without crying," I said. And then we both cried because joy is a muscle you use or you lose. This is the part where I tell you about another hard thing. Because love is a series of hard things you survive together. Jesse got a call from the bar where he used to play on Tuesdays. They wanted him to come back for one night, a reunion for the owner who was retiring. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to prove to himself that he could be there and be okay. I wanted to protect him. I wanted to tell him it was a bad idea. I took a breath. I said, "I trust you. What do you need to make it safe?" He thought about it. He asked if I would come with him and sit in the front row and smile when the urge to run came. He asked if we could leave early if he needed to. He asked me to hold his chip in my pocket like a charm. We did all of that. He played. He was beautiful. He was shaky, then he was solid, then he was done. He did not drink. He wanted to cry and dance and punch something and sleep all at once. We went home. He sat on the floor and leaned against the couch. I sat next to him. We breathed together. He said, "I feel like I cheated death and also proved nothing. Is that normal?" I said, "Yes, probably." The dog licked his hand. He laughed. We slept. He does not call himself a bad friend anymore. Neither do I. The words we use on ourselves bend our backs or lift our chins. He is a man who used to make choices that hurt. He is a man who tries now, every day, to make choices that heal. I am a man who loves him, I am a man who learned to hold my own line without letting go of his hand. If you live long enough, you learn that it is not the grand gestures that save you. It is someone standing at the sink washing apples for you because you look tired. It is someone checking the locks at night because you check them twice when you are anxious and they want to save you one trip. It is someone placing their hand on your back in the grocery store when the lights feel too bright and you forget for a moment how to want anything. It is someone saying, "I can't fix it," and you believing them and also believing that them staying next to you is its own medicine. We live now in a small, sunlit apartment with a view of a parking lot and a sliver of the sky. We both signed the lease with hands that did not shake. There are 2 mugs on the counter, mismatched in a pretty way. There is a dog snoring like the ghost of a harmonica. There is a photo of us on the fridge, taken by a stranger in the park, the day we were wearing the same color by accident and pretending we did it on purpose. There are notes on the fridge, too. Trash day, Tuesday. Call mom, Wednesday. Plant watering, Sunday. There is also a note that says, "We are good at this," written in my careful hand with the cherry wood pen he gave me. He sometimes adds a smiley face with a nose, which is not something I would normally draw, but now I adore it. On the nights when we fight because we are human, we do not leave the room. We ring the little bell that Rita gave us. We sit down on the rug. We take turns. He goes first sometimes. He says, "When you walked away while I was talking, I felt abandoned again. I know you were just getting a napkin." I say, "When you joked about me being bossy in front of your friend, I felt small. I know you didn't mean it like that." We let the sentences live in the air between us, and then we call them back home once they have learned something. People sometimes ask me, in rooms where we talk about lives gently, "How did you know it was worth it?" I do not have a chart for that. I do not have a lab test that says love is safe. I have this, the sound he makes when he relaxes, like a small thunder rolling away. The way he texts me pictures of grocery store flowers at lunchtime because he thinks it will make me smile. The way he sits with my patients in the lobby sometimes and reads to the kids, the deep voice making the dragons kind. The way he forgives himself for the person he used to be 1 inch at a time. The way I forgive myself for thinking I could fix everything, 1 breath at a time. I still have the jacket from the rain day. The stains are lighter now. Maybe that is how it works. And we are still here. Jesse is in the next room right now, putting a coat of varnish on a small table he found on the sidewalk because he believes in rescuing things that can still be beautiful. He is whistling. I am terrible at it, but I try sometimes to whistle along. He calls out, "You're flat," and I say, "I'm jazz," and he laughs. He comes in and kisses the top of my head. The way you kiss your favorite page and the dog thumps his tail once, approving. If you ask me to name the most doctor thing I do in our home, it is not checking the medicine cabinet or keeping us stocked with bandages and tea. It is listening for the quiet shift in his breathing that tells me the day is letting him go. It is noticing the way his shoulders drop when he sees me at the end of a long day. It is letting our home be a place where soft things happen and we trust them. It is learning that caring means more than fixing. It means staying. It means naming what is wrong. It means celebrating what is right. It means the courage to make a boundary and the tenderness to reach for a hand across it once both of you are ready. The other night, he fell asleep on the couch with his head in my lap, the television turning a baseball game into a lullaby. I stroked his hair the way you do when you need to tell someone's nervous system they can stop scanning the horizon. I thought about all the places we had been together, parking lots, porches, pews, highways, hills. I thought of the way he used to stand like he was waiting for something to hit him, and the way he stands now, like he is not hiding. I thought about the sentence my mother wrote, about the porch light. I looked at our small apartment, at the 2 mugs, at the dog, at the books, at the pen, at the bell. I thought, in the quiet voice I use for true things, we did this, together. In the morning, he will get up before me and put on coffee and leave me the first cup because he thinks it tastes better if it waits for me. He will write a note on the back of a receipt because we are always out of paper at the wrong time. He will write back at noon, "Miss you already," and draw a smiley face with a nose. I will find it when I pour my coffee. I will hold it in my hand like the miracle it is, the evidence of our ordinary love, the opposite of drama, the medicine that took longer than I wanted and worked better than I imagined. I am in love with my bad friend, who is not bad anymore, not in the way that word once meant for him, not in the way that turned every day into a test. He is my friend. He is my love. He is my daily practice of showing up for joy and for the work that joy asks of us. If you are listening and your heart is sore and your hope is tired, I will tell you something I say to my patients, softly and with my whole chest. The body remembers safety. It can learn it again. So can we. The rain has stopped. The light is holding the room softly. The varnish is going to make that rescued table shine. We are going to sit at it tonight and eat spaghetti with too much garlic and laugh about something the dog did that we will tell people as a story for years. We will ring the bell if we need it. We will go to bed early. We will wake up tomorrow. We will continue with kindness,